Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay, and I am the Bucks believer. This morning, I just have to give a round of applause to the Bucks because this was definitely their best win of the season. Despite their third best player in Jrue Holiday playing just 18 minutes as he returns from the health and safety protocols, they were still able to knock off one of the best teams in the league in the Los Angeles Clippers with a final score of 105-100. The largest reason for this brings me to today's stat of the night, as Giannis Antetokounmpo piled up 17 of the Bucks' last 22 points as the team closed out the game on a 9-0 run. Antetokounmpo was electric in the fourth quarter as we saw him score in a multitude of ways. He was able to score off the bounce, getting to the basket and finishing at the rim. He got to the line a couple times and was 4 for 5 on his free throw attempts in the fourth quarter. He even made a 3 off the dribble, and when that happens, you know that Giannis is on a roll. Of course, I can't forget about the emphatic finish that he had to close out the game that really put an exclamation mark on the victory and almost sealed it up for the Bucks. They did need to get a stop on the other end, and they forced Kawhi Leonard into a very difficult three-point shot that rimmed out. But Giannis was great on the offensive end of the floor to close out the game, and that kind of made up for a game in which he played well, but wasn't necessarily at the MVP level the Bucks need him to be. His stat line is terrific. 36 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists on 15 for 27 shooting. You will take that any day. But in the first 3 quarters of this game, Giannis did struggle a little bit with the Clippers' physical defense, and he wasn't finishing at the rate we're used to seeing him do so. But in that fourth quarter, he turned it up and was magnificent. He also played great on the defensive end of the court as he finished this game with 4 blocks. The 2 of those that really stood out was number 1, his block of Ivica Zubac as Zubac tried to throw down a 2-handed slam, and Giannis just threw that right back as it was a huge swinging point and gave the Bucks quite a bit of momentum with just a few minutes remaining in the game. The other one, of course, came against Kawhi Leonard, as Leonard had worked Jrue Holiday into pretty solid position in the post, and Antetokounmpo was able to come from the health side and make a pretty solid contest from behind, and that limited Leonard. Leonard, of course, did grab the offensive rebound, but as he tried to put up a shot to beat the shot clock buzzer, it did not go in, and the Bucks were able to get a monster stop. And Giannis's defense wasn't the only good D, as the Bucks were absolutely terrific on that end of the court, with the exception of a stretch in the latter part of the third quarter. The Clippers were able to finish that quarter on a 21-7 run, and it was largely because Serge Ibaka and Marcus Morris were able to get some wide open looks in which the Bucks' rotations defensively just really didn't look good at all. Those wide open looks for the Clippers are something that can't happen, and for the Bucks to win a championship come this summer, they're going to have to be more consistent on the defensive end of the court. But for 3.5 quarters of this ball game, the Bucks were absolutely stopping the Clippers on every single possession. Los Angeles finished with just a 48.5 effective field goal percentage in this one, and that's because the Bucks rotated well, contested shots, and limited the easy looks that LA was able to get at the basket. In particular, I thought that Jrue Holiday did a very nice job on defense. This was his first game back after missing 10 due to the health and safety protocols, but he played really well defensively, and that was really the only area he was able to make an impact as he struggled to regain his footing and had just 2 points on 1 for 5 shooting. However, the defense he played on Paul George and Kawhi Leonard throughout this game was fantastic, and he was a large reason in the limitations the Bucks were able to put on PG. In the first half, Paul George kind of had his way as he was able to put up 14 points on 6 for 10 shooting, but in the second, the Bucks really locked down on him, and you have to give a lot of credit to the Bucks wings that were defending him. Jrue Holiday, as I said before, did a great job. Chris Middleton was stellar. Dante DiVincenzo, Pat Connaughton all had time on George. And George finished in that second half with just 2 points and 1 for 11 shooting and 0 for 5 from the three-point line. That's the kind of stifling defense you have to play on star-level players, and the fact that the Bucks were able to ramp it up in the second half was very promising to me. Kawhi Leonard was a bit better for the Clippers, as he was able to put up 25 points on 10 for 21 shooting. But down the stretch, when his team really needed him, the Bucks were able to put the clamps on as Leonard missed his last 4 shots from the field. And that wasn't only with Kawhi, as the Bucks defense was terrific down the stretch. The last basket for the Clippers came with 4 minutes remaining in the game, and that defense that the Bucks put in was a huge and essential reason why they were able to win. DJ Augustin made a couple gigantic plays, one of which being a charge he took on Ivica Zubac in the third quarter when the Clippers were rolling that really kept the Bucks in the game, and the other being a steal that he had after Patrick Beverley made a pass into the lane. Augustin was able to get in the passing lane and create a possession for Milwaukee. Augustin also hit a huge 3 off the bounce, and that was a really big swinging point for the Bucks as it took the Clippers lead from 98 to 93 to 98 to 96. So a nice game from DJ. Even if the box score would only say that he scored 6 points, his impact was much greater than that. Anyways, my point here is that the Bucks were great on the defensive end down the stretch, and I was very, very excited to see them play with the kind of tenacity and excitement that they did. The last guy that I want to touch on here is Chris Middleton. Middleton had a pretty standard Chris Middleton game in terms of scoring, as he had 19 points on 6 for 14 shooting and 2 for 5 from the three-point line. Where he really stood out to me in this one came in the playmaking department, as Chris was able to put up 8 assists. He has really improved as a playmaker. That's been something that I've said quite frequently throughout this year for the Bucks, but in this game it particularly stood out. On one play, he ran the pick and roll with Giannis, and that has looked very good, by the way. Whenever the Bucks ran it, they were able to create some really solid looks in this game, and it seems to be their go-to play down the stretch. But on the particular occasion that I'm speaking of, Giannis was able to break loose. Chris threw a money alley-oop lob pass to Giannis, and Giannis was able to throw it down for a jam. Chris also made a really nice pass on an inbounds play in which Giannis rolled to the basket. Chris threw it up above the rim where only Giannis could get it, and he threw it down. Finally, Middleton made a really nice swing pass at the end of the game in which he found a wide open Antetokounmpo who simply had to take 2 steps before throwing down a monster jam that took the Bucks lead from 1 to 3 and made this game a lot more in the Bucks' favor in terms of who was likely to win. Overall, as I said at the beginning, this was the best game of the season for the Bucks. They got a gigantic win over a terrific team that was at full strength, and they only had about 1/2 of the Jrue Holiday minutes that they'll have come playoff time. I think that this is very promising, and it makes me very excited to see what this Bucks team can continue to do as the season goes on. There are only 2 more games before the All-Star break, so once that comes around, the Bucks are going to be able to take some time off, and I hope that they'll be right and ready when the second half of the season starts, because there's a lot of challenging games on that second half schedule. Let me know what your thoughts were on this game in the comment section down below. Leave a like, and if you enjoy all things Bucks, be sure to subscribe. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, so Bucks fans, I'll see you all again very soon.